Hey guys, LootWizard here with another video on Gems of War, and it is the first day of the week, which means the game is reset. We have a new troop, we have new stuff in the Soulforge and all that, so we're going to be getting right into that. I'm wearing my winter hat. I'm sure you guys just noticed that because it snowed up where I live. So, yeah, hope you guys don't mind a little winter hat on my head in this video. But so let's get right into it here. Let's go over the Soulforge first, as always. And let's take a look at the weapons in here. And the event kingdom this week is Suncrest. So all the troops and weapons and all that stuff, except for some of the legendaries and mythics that are in the Soulforge, those aren't determined by the event kingdom this week. But your event keys are determined by that, and the weapons in the Soulforge are usually determined by that event kingdom. So we have the light sword, which is Suncrest. That's why it's in here. I don't really recommend crafting this because it's very situational. It'll deal triple damage if the enemy uses purple mana, but how often do you encounter enemies with purple? Maybe, but so it's up to you if you want to craft that or not. It does cost 75 diamonds and some of these other resources, which you might want to save for a better weapon. Doomed Gavel we can get in the Tower of Doom event with gems instead of diamonds, so I recommend going over there and getting it that way. As for the rest of these weapons, Dawnstone is in here. I don't know if this is definitely a Suncrest weapon. I don't use it that often, but it is a fairly decent weapon. It will give an ally life, half their mana. It will cleanse them, barrier them, and enchant them. Has a pretty low mana cost of 12, single color red, so you will, but if you have a class that starts with half a mana, it could start with six mana that you need, and you can really power up some troops and protect them with that weapon there. So if you don't have that, you could craft that. It only costs gems, it doesn't cost diamonds actually, but it does cost 100,000 souls, and that's a pretty hefty cost for a lot of lower level players. Then finally, the last weapons here are the mana generator weapons for Suncrest. You have the Plumed Staff, which will generate certain colors of mana here based on Suncrest allies. Nimbus Bow, that will generate mana based on Strix allies. Now, Strix troops generally come from that Suncrest kingdom, but they don't necessarily have to. This weapon actually works pretty good with the new Guardian troops that we got recently. The finesse ones use the yellow mana color, and this weapon generates yellow mana. And so I have seen quite a few teams here and there in PvP that use this weapon with 3 finesse troops, and that is a pretty good team. So but is it worth 300 diamonds over here? If you're collecting them at this point, you already have most of the most powerful mythics you want in the game. I would say keep saving your diamonds for mythics if you're not in that situation. But if you are starting to collect a bunch of these mana generating weapons for kingdoms and stuff, now's the time to pick up the ones there for Strix and Suncrest. Moving on to troops here, we'll go through the summoning stones really quickly and go down into the mythics. So for blue summoning stone, we have not too much here. Dwarven Gate is probably one of the best troops early on in the game. That's a common rarity, but you probably already have this by now. But if you do want to try to ascend this thing to mythic status, now would be a good time to get a bunch of extra copies of that. Otherwise, I don't really think any of these are worth really going for, unless, for example, you want to get this troop for boss battles during the raid boss events. Then you could try to get extra copies of this and level that up. For green, yeah, we don't really have any really great troops here for green either that I could recommend, other than this Wyvern. Wyvern is actually pretty good. Does damage the first 2 enemies and poisons the last 2. Starts with 50% mana. Pretty low mana cost, so that's something to consider if you don't have it, or if you want to ascend it to a higher rarity. And yeah, so same situation here as that other color. You do have a troop here that is used for raid boss events. And as you can see, its damage, both its spell and its skull damage, is based on how high it has been ascended. So now's a good time to get extra copies of that troop as well if you can spare the jewels for it. And as far as what are we at? The color yellow here now. And yeah, so you got troops like this. This is a bounty troop. As you can see here, and bounties are really good events that happen like once a month in order to get a lot of resources and extra orbs and all that. So you're going to get a higher score based on the ascension of your bounty troops. So this is a bounty troop, so you might want to try to get this to mythic status this week. Other than that, you know, flame cannon is interesting. Damage to all enemies, 20% chance to burn an enemy. Other than that, we have the same situation like with this guy here. He's another raid boss troop. You can try to get him ascended higher. I might actually try to do that this week as well because I only have him at legendary. And I try to get all of these types of troops that are for towers or for raid bosses to mythic status because they will do more damage. For purple stones, yeah, there's not really anything great here except you got more troops for the tower event and a boss event troop here. And Nyx is really powerful in certain teams. It drains mana, and it will create mana as well according to how much it drained. So that is a interesting troop to get to. As far as this last brown summoning stone here, we have Diviner, or Diviner, however you want to say the name of this troop, is actually a pretty decent troop in some teams because it will transform a chosen color to yellow, and then it will do one of the following. It will enchant all allies or increase all of their magic by 9, or it will cleanse all allies. So this is a troop that I have used sometimes in teams as well. And again, we have another troop that is event troop for towers here that you could try to get up there to legendary or mythic. And those are probably the ones I would say that are worth going for there. And moving on here, really quickly on the legendaries, I never really recommend to craft these, but Web Spinner, if you can trade it, it is really, really powerful because of its triple skull damage to poisoned and webbed enemies, and it inflicts web while doing skull damage. So as long as there isn't like barrier or bless or something like that that will block it, it will do the triple damage if you have this completely traded. So this is a really powerful troop just to put at the top of your team, and once you connect those skulls, it'll just annihilate enemy troops. So that is a powerful legendary troop there. Queen Titania is pretty good as well, but I just don't think that legendaries are really worth crafting because you can get legendaries quite, they're actually quite common in glory keys. You know, if you keep spending glory and using your glory keys, you're going to get quite a few legendary troops through just playing the game. Moving on to mythic troops here. We have Queen Aurora, we have a Garan Couture, Tina 9000, and King Bloodwood. So Tina 9000 is probably the best troop here this week to craft. It will do true damage between 29 and 58. Sometimes that's lower, sometimes that's higher, depends on your magic level in the game right now. But it will do true damage to 3 random enemies, then it gains armor, quite a bit of armor. It also has damage reduction by 50% for spells, and then it will add 50% of its armor to skull damage. So, and it's going to be adding armor to itself, so that's it's going to be increasing its skull damage by every time it casts itself. The only thing that Tina 9000 has like really going against it is that it doesn't have any damage reduction for skulls, and it doesn't generate any mana for itself. But it's still a really powerful mythic troop. I use it quite often. One of the great things about it is that it cuts through barriers really easily because it hits 3 random enemies, and that's if you only have one troop left. Let's say you have a Mountain Crusher enemy a hero class with that weapon, and it has the rock solid talent, it's going to keep getting barrier, and it's going to be really annoying to kill, right? Well, Tina 9000, it'll hit 3 random enemies. If that's the only enemy left, it'll hit it 3 times in a row. So once it'll knock the barrier off, and then the next 2 times it'll just do true damage and probably kill it. So I do like Tina 9000 for quite a few of those types of teams that you're going up against, like Dawnbringer or Mountain Crusher, and those weapons that can be have barrier on it pretty easy. So that's probably the best. The second best is yeah, King Bloodwood is kind of underwhelming with its damage. It has to, I just haven't been impressed by King Bloodwood. So I'm going to have to say the second one goes to Queen Aurora that I would choose to craft after Tina 9000. Because Queen Aurora is really great support troop. It gives all allies barrier and life, plus it generates 10 gems of a chosen color. And if you have all the traits unlocked, it will gain bonus from all colors of mana. It'll add one bonus to every color. So that is a really good troop for supporting a whole team. So I would say Tina 9000, then Queen Aurora, and then obviously King Bloodwood is going to be above Garangator. Garangator is one of the worst mythics in the game. I mean, do not craft this thing ever. Don't craft this mythic troop. You'll be so disappointed. It is one of the worst. There are some legendary troops that far outdo Garangator in damage and abilities and all of that. So just don't even think about crafting that troop. King Bloodwood, I wouldn't craft this one either. It's just, unless you're trying to collect them all, collect all the mythic troops, and this is like one of the last ones you have left to get, then I wouldn't craft this either. It does splash damage boosted by entangled and bleeding enemies. Then it steals 10 life from all enemies. If you have it all traded, it will entangle and inflict bleed on random enemies when you match 4 or more gems. So it's not the worst. It's definitely better than Garangator, but it's just, you got to have it with enough other troops to get all the entangle and bleed going, and even then it's still a little underwhelming. There are better mythics to go for than that one. But I don't want to downplay King Bloodwood too much, because it still is. It can still take you out in certain situations if you're up against it. So, yeah, those are my thoughts on the troops here. And let's go to the shop real quick and look at the new troop here. The new troop is an ultra-rare Suncrest troop. Let's take a look at its abilities. It says it will give life and 2 magic to all yellow allies. There's a 30% chance to summon a copy of the first enemy. That's interesting. So we've seen a few troops like this about copying enemies or troops, and now I don't know quite how this would work on a hero class, because a lot of times the enemy team has their hero class in the first spot. Will it summon the hero weapon of the enemy's team? Or is it going to not do that if it's the hero, and then it'll only summon a regular troop if it's at the top? That I don't know. And but yeah, so, and it's based on boosting yellow allies, so this would be a troop that you'd have to place with other yellow allies. The traits aren't really great. You do have a summon a light storm at the start of the battle, but it's kind of useless when we have an entire class that can start a light storm at the start of every single turn. And then it has a bonus to yellow there. So yeah, it is what it is there. Yeah, so let's go ahead and buy it. As usual, I always try to buy this troop up to Mythic. But, yeah, I will add a bonus secret of mine in this video here that I don't think I've shared before. It's one of the reasons I still do a lot of PvP, and even though they changed some of the rewards on PvP and some of those updates, I still do a lot of it because, first of all, I like to get these new troops up to Mythic, and it gives me arcane trait stones, it gives me gold, 200,000 gold here, you can see, and then I get 82 glory keys. And those glory keys I save all the way for the whole month until the new mythic comes out the first Friday of the month. And so I just stockpile all these keys once a month. Now, it does cost for this troop 12,300 glory. This is one of those troops that only costs 300 glory. So there are sometimes troops that come in the shop that cost 400, and so it'll cost more glory. But one of the main ways that you can get glory in the game is doing PvP battles. You can also get it from adventure board. You can do it from challenges, and from your guild tasks. You do get some glory, and in delves. But the main way that you can consistently like farm glory is doing a lot of PvP battles. So now, what about my secret? Well, as you can see here, I save up a heck of a lot of glory, and that's because of, doing all those PvP battles. So sometimes when I want to boost my gold count, I'll come in here, and I always try to do it when it's at the 300 glory cost, because that's going to save you on a lot of glory. But sometimes I'll just do the entire quantity 200. It's going to cost 60,000 glory, but it will give me 1,000,000 gold for that. And it will give me 400 glory keys. So, but the 1,000,000 gold, that's one way you can get 1,000,000 gold instantly if you have 60,000 glory. And so sometimes I'll come in here and I'll do that. If once I reach, somewhere over 200,000 glory, then that's when I consider coming in and doing this. So that's just one little secret that I have done over the years. But it's like, you do have to save up a lot of glory. 60,000 glory takes you a long time to farm in PvP. So I'm not saying this is like a really quick way to like just get millions and millions of gold. But it's a way that I get extra. So I'm not going to do that right now. We'll just get enough to get to mythic here. And yeah, so we can ascend him later. I'm going to get my spoils of war, those 10 event keys. I also save my event keys as well until new legendaries come out, or until a kingdom comes out with a mythic that I want to get. So for example, every week there's a new kingdom that comes out. So for like some of you that might want the Scorpius mythic troop, it's going to, whenever Drifting Sands comes through, when it's the week of Drifting Sands, you will, in event keys, have a chance to get Scorpius. And Scorpius is really good for explore battles right now. So you could wait for it to either show up in the Soulforge to craft it that way, or you wait until Drifting Sands comes along in an event week, and then you go in and use your event keys. And right now it says Suncrest troops. Well, if you wanted the Scorpius mythic troop, you wait until it says Drifting Sands troops, and then you can come in here and you can use your event keys, and you will only have, the only mythics that you'll have a chance of getting are for that kingdom with your event keys. So that's how I kind of focus in and pick out certain mythic troops that I want to get. I'll save my event keys until that kingdom shows up, and then I'll just, I'll open those event keys and hope I get that mythic troop. So that's a little tip there. So the only thing left I think I got here to show you guys is a little bit of the event that's going on, which is Tower of Doom. And it's yellow, so you can only use troops that are yellow. I don't think they've restricted weapons for this yet, because I already made up a basic team here, so you can choose pretty much any weapon. It doesn't have to be yellow, but all the troops have to be at least yellow. So this is probably going to be my team later on in the game, once it gets pretty difficult. Early on in the tower here, the health and life and armor, all that stuff is so low that really any weapon that is going to get powered up quickly, does damage to all enemies, is going to clear these rooms, and probably until around level 10 or so of the tower. And then you'll have to switch to something that's a little more powerful. And for me, I'm probably going to go with Mang at the beginning here, because it will be able to gain that large attack damage easy. And then for creating skulls, I'll probably try using Qilin here. It'll convert purple to red gems, which means red will fill up my Mang again, and it will fill up this troop as well, because it takes red. And then brown gems will be turned into skulls, and then 2 random enemies will be blessed. Now I have Holy Saint Astra here because it will give life and armor to all allies, and it will enchant humans. So I chose for right here a War Priest as a human class, and so it will enchant Mang, as well as giving it that life and that armor. Skrymir the Lofty is here in the back simply for really support troop. It will cleanse, it'll barrier an ally, and it will give life to them. Then it will move them to the front of the team. So I'm going to use Skrymir the Lofty on my hero class here, not only to barrier it and cleanse it and all that stuff, but moving it to the front of the team is very important when you're doing skull damage, because whatever troop is at the top is the one that's going to be doing skull damage. So sometimes you run into those troops that will jumble your team or knock the first one to the back and all that crap. That's really annoying. And Skrymir here will be able to move my Mang. If it does get switched to somewhere else in the team, I can move it back up to the front, as well as cleanse it and barrier it. So it might even be entangled, but Skrymir will cleanse that, so I can continue to do that skull damage. So that's really my recommended team. I think I'm going to go with it. It might change depending upon how well this works for me later on, but that's kind of my the team that I'm probably going to try to use. So just to give you an idea of what I'm doing. So yeah, that's pretty much all that's going on here. And these Tower of Dooms, you know, for my guild, we usually like map out. It'll be like 1 or 2 people that'll go forward in the tower really high, and they'll map out like which rooms have what. Some rooms will unlock the boss fight, and that will make you go up to the next. Once you defeat the boss room, you'll be able to go up to the next floor. So we do map out in our guild like which ones are for unlocks, and then we will record other bonuses that we get in some of the rooms too, especially the Fireball scrolls and the Heroism scrolls, because Fireball will instantly defeat a non-boss room, and Heroism scroll will instantly defeat a boss room. So those 2 scrolls are very important. And if you guys are in a guild that's active, and I do recommend you do get into an active guild because it really helps you out in this game. But you should start thinking about, if you haven't already, mapping out those different rooms, helping your guild out to figure out which rooms have those in there, so that other people in your guild will be able to get all those nice bonuses and these scrolls and all that stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it, except for maybe I don't think I've gone over the weapon here, the gavel. Doomed gavel, this is a little bit different than some of the ones they have been releasing. It's doing splash damage, heavy splash damage to an enemy, and then it has a 4+ to that damage based on tempering level. And the tempering level is the upgrades that you will do for the weapon, just like most normal weapons have. If it's a legendary weapon, it needs the legendary ingots. But for these Doom weapons, they don't take ingots to upgrade. They take the Forge scrolls that you get for defeating boss rooms in this event. So you want to collect those Forge scrolls, and then you can use it to upgrade these Doom weapons, and it will have to match the color. But that's what this tempering level means. And you can go all the way up to level it's 10 or 12, something like that. So you will get an extra, like probably 40 splash damage added to whatever your magic is here, if you can get it all the way up to its max level. Then it will stun all yellow enemies and cleanse all yellow allies. It'll explode 4 gems if the enemy has a Doom. Well, it will explode 4 gems, and then if the enemy has a Doom, it will explode 3 more. So this weapon actually looks kind of interesting. I might try to upgrade this one myself, just because heavy splash damage is pretty powerful. It'll do the damage that it says here to the one enemy that you choose, and then it'll do 75% of that damage to the troops above it, and it'll blow it below that troop that you hit. And then stunning all yellow enemies, that could be useful, but definitely cleansing all yellow allies. So if you have an all-yellow team or a couple of critical yellow troops, it will cleanse those as well. So that's it for this video this week. So thanks guys for watching and supporting my my channel, watching my videos and liking them and all of that. So you guys are awesome. Have a fun week in Gems of War, and I'll probably end up posting another 1 or 2 videos about different teams for PvP and whatnot later this week. So yeah, thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Later.